This EOFY, get deals that don't blend in. Like 1.9% finance across select variants when you finance with Nissan. All backed by Australia's only 10-year, 300,000-kilometre warranty. Get into your local Nissan dealer today.
Hello from the Amplify newsroom, I'm Hayden Versara. Canberra has cut its RSV caseload by more than half this year, from 1,400 to 680, but vaccination rates remain worryingly low. Just 10% of ACT babies under 8 months have received the free RSV shot rolled out nationally earlier this year. That's well below Queensland's 37% uptake, prompting calls for more parents to act before winter peaks. A pair stranded in blizzard conditions near Mount Kosciuszko sparked a dramatic alpine rescue over the weekend, with police warning bushwalkers to check forecasts before heading out. While the Brindabellas saw up to 7 centimetres of snow, the rest of the ACT looks set to miss out on the dump. The Bureau says most of the capital will stay snow-free this week.
In the higher places, you might end up with some little light dusting of snow, since there is some rainfall about anywhere that's, below zero. But in the Canberra region, it's looking fairly unlikely.
Climatologist Edward Medlock there. An Australian journalist has been shot in the leg by a rubber bullet in LA. 9 sane Lauren Tomasi was covering the protests over the immigration raids when police fired into the crowd. She wasn't seriously injured. It comes as Police Chief Jim McDonnell blames travelling rioters for the violence.
They're people that we run across routinely city to city, and this is what they do. So even more disgusting that many of the people who are doing this come in from other places just to hurt people and to cause havoc.
Meanwhile, the Department of Foreign Affairs has issued a statement after an Aussie reporter was shot with rubber bullets. DFAT saying it supports media freedom of speech and the protection of journalists. Smart Traveller now advising Australians to avoid areas where demonstrations are occurring. The consulate has been in touch with the 9 reporter and has offered assistance. An 18-year-old man and a 16-year-old boy have been arrested after allegedly stealing a Volvo and leading police on a high-speed chase through Tuggeranong on Sunday. The car was allegedly taken from a home in Crace early that morning and spotted driving erratically in Braddon before allegedly fleeing into Monash. It was found abandoned in a green belt, with the pair allegedly tracked down nearby. The man is due in court today, facing multiple charges. Israel has stopped Greta Thunberg from reaching Gaza. The activist is drawing attention to the humanitarian crisis and had planned to breach the naval blockade to deliver supplies to Palestinians, but the Israeli military has boarded the ship. Canberra locals felt the chill as a polar blast brought heavy snow across the snowy mountains, kicking off the ski season with over 45 centimetres at Perisher. Cold air swept through the capital and surrounds, with frosty winds and more snow tipped for the tablelands. Hazardous surf warnings are also in place along the New South Wales coast. It's the best early start for the snow season in years. Special recognition for more than 30 locals who've been named in this year's King's Birthday Honours list. Among them, a Canberra woman who's been a swim teacher for more than 63 years. Carol Gathercole says she's feeling super proud.
Just awestruck, but very, very pleased to think that swimming and swim teaching have been recognised, and we will continue to educate and teach to swim.
And it's official, the project is coming to an end. Channel 10 has confirmed the final episode will air on June 27, wrapping up after nearly 16 years and more than 4,500 episodes. In its place, a new 1-hour national news and current affairs show will launch at 6 p.m.
ACT Police have responded to an investigation by the Watchdog on officers' use of force. The ACT Ombudsman reviewing over 440,000 incidents, one-third of which resulted in a reportable use of force, including impatience, aggression and abusive language from police officers. Of the 13 recommendations made, police say they will accept 2 of them, partially accept 8, and they have not accepted 3 of the recommendations. The ACT Greens have announced plans for legislation that would extend vicarious liability for institutional child abuse to people associated with the institution. Greens leader Shane Rattenbury says it comes after a High Court decision meant institutions are no longer considered liable for crimes perpetrated by people associated with their organisation.
Institutions like churches, sporting groups and others have an obligation to protect the children in their care, and that obligation must extend to people who are acting on their behalf, people who are in important roles in those organisations.
Dates for the 2026 National Multicultural Festival have been announced, with the event returning to the nation's capital on the 6th of Feb. Minister for Multicultural Affairs, Michael Pedersen, says they're working on expanding the event for 2026.
Each and every year we try to grow and expand the National Multicultural Festival. We always do our best to get important, exciting headliners and encourage local performers. And so if you are keen to be involved, please head to multiculturalfestival.com.au.
Healthcare is a big issue for the federal government this term, the PM telling the National Press Club prescriptions for pensioners and concession card holders will be frozen to the end of the decade at $7.70, and he wants to open 50 new Medicare urgent care clinics by the middle of next year.
And at the same time, 1-800-MEDICARE will be up and running. Free, 24/7, expert health advice, only a phone call away.
The Marines are being sent to Los Angeles to help deal with escalating riots in the city. The US military has confirmed 700 Marines will head to LA as it braces for more immigration protests. Another embryo mix-up by Monash, the fertility company admitting it transferred the wrong embryo to a Melbourne patient in June. The incident comes just months after the IVF giant admitted another mistake where a Brisbane woman gave birth to another couple's baby. And from today, Afterpay and Zip could appear on your credit score. New laws will see buy now, pay later products regulated in the same way as credit cards, including credit checks for new customers.
More than $30 million is being committed in the upcoming ACT budget to expand the ACT's response to domestic, family and sexual violence.
This investment will boost capacity of frontline services. It'll enhance early intervention efforts, particularly with children and young people, and also support the provision of culturally safe support through Aboriginal community-controlled and led organisations.
Member for Murrumbidgee, Dr. Marisa Patterson there. Police say they uncovered a huge stash of gun-related items at a Corwell home before laying multiple charges against a 54-year-old man. It's after they allegedly found 2 3D printers, 3D printed guns, hand grenades, bulletproof vests, 4 fake guns, firearm magazines and lots of ammunition. The man's also accused of importing gun parts from overseas. While a man and woman in their 40s will face court, accused of stealing a bunch of items from the tip in Mitchell early this morning. Police say they busted the pair walking towards a car while allegedly carrying stolen items. A search of the car uncovered other alleged stolen items, including 6 laptops, 12 car batteries, a mobile phone and a bunch of scrap metal. The Californian governor says Trump's response to the LA riots are an attack on democracy. The president sending in more troops to protect police arresting migrants. Gavin Newsom says the president's dictatorship has targeted people who can't defend themselves.
Trump and his loyalists, they thrive on division because it allows them to take more power and exert even more control.
The Prime Minister is defending the decision to impose sanctions on 2 Israeli ministers. He says the pair have been inciting violence against the Palestinians in the West Bank. After being closed for more than 2 decades, there's fresh calls for Ginninderra Falls to be reopened to the public. 2 community petitions have been launched with more than 1,700 signatures asking for public access as part of the sale conditions. Greens MLA Joe Clay says it's been closed for too long.
It is so beautiful. We have Hollywood directors wanting to film action films there. This is absolutely the kind of thing that the community expect to have access to. This should not be in private hands.
There's hopes redundancies at the University of Canberra are over, with the uni hoping to have its budget back in the black by the end of the year. Vice-Chancellor Bill Shorten says he's reasonably confident there'll be no more job cuts. A new search for British toddler Madeleine McCann has uncovered bone and clothing fragments in Portugal that'll now be sent off for testing. And Canberrans are being encouraged to roll up their sleeves and donate blood for National Blood Donor Week this week. There'll also be a new way to identify blood donors around the capital, with branded red arm bandages replacing the white ones.
It's a great way to start a conversation and encourage more people to donate when they can see that there's a bandage that's proven that our altruistic donors have made a donation.
Sally Devison from Lifeblood there.
Calls for better funding locally and nationally for our police force. It's as a new staff AFP survey shows at least 1 in 5 workers intend to leave the agency in the next 2 years. AFP Association President Alex Caruana says workloads and pay are the big issues.
Bus drivers in Melbourne get paid more than police officers here in Canberra. For banks, get paid significantly more, sometimes 3 times as much. So we're seeing people take up opportunities to go to organisations that remunerate better.
The opposition is worried the US could scrap the AUKUS deal after announcing a review of the deal. Leader Susan Lee telling Sky News she isn't convinced Trump respects Anthony Albanese.
We are concerned about the Pentagon reviewing AUKUS because we're not sure of the standing that this government has with the President and with the US administration.
Linda Reynolds is going to the federal court after the corruption watchdog found there was no corruption with the Brittany Higgins settlement. The former staffer was given $2.4 million by the Commonwealth to finalise her complaint over an alleged sexual assault. The former Defence Minister says she's disappointed with the findings. A boost for Tuggeranong. More than $15 million in the upcoming ACT budget will be spent on upgrades to local playgrounds, footpaths and sport facilities. Member for Brindabella, Caitlin Tuff, says there's also a strong focus on improving safety at local shops and outdoor areas.
It's making sure that people feel safe to exercise at night, whether that's walking to and from the shops or running to and from their shops, whether it's running around the lake.
Looks like our hospitals across the border are doing a pretty good job when it comes to emergency department and planned surgery performance. The latest healthcare quarterly report shows of the 6,500 plus patients who went to the ED at Queanbeyan Hospital, more than 8 in 10 started treatment on time. As for planned surgeries, all 177 procedures were also performed on time. Experts are calling for federal regulation of assisted reproductive technology. It follows the latest Monash IVF bungle and the standing down of its CEO. It's currently regulated by state laws, with clinics following ethical guidelines, but experts believe an independent statutory authority is now the way to go. Meanwhile, moves to help veterans feel at ease at Canberra Hospital. A new veterans lounge has opened there, offering a quiet space for current and former military members who are patients as well as visitors. The Health Minister says it's an important step in recognising the unique needs of Canberra's 22,000 veterans and their families accessing public health services. And Australia's best wines, including a bunch of local drops, are now on show for the inaugural National Wine Festival that kicks off today. More than 1,000 wines will be opened for tasting, with more than 9,000 bottles expected to be shared across the next 4 days. A world-first clinical trial targeting untreatable cancers kicks off later this year, led by a team from the ANU and Canberra Health Services. It targets a protein called MYC that often contributes to tumour development in a number of common cancers.
That work's gone from lab work in mice through to developing a drug that can be given to people, testing the safety of that drug, and now we're at the stage of really getting together a group of people in the form of this trial and seeing whether it works.
Haematologist and ANU professor Mark Polazotto there. Israel has targeted Iran's nuclear sites. It's part of what PM Benjamin Netanyahu has called Operation Rising Lion. The country also now declaring a state of emergency. There's reports Iran's Revolutionary Guard chief has been killed in the strikes. At least 290 people have been killed after a London-bound Air India flight crashed in Western India, with a British man the sole survivor. Footage has emerged of the man walking from the wreckage and told reporters he had jumped out of the emergency exit door. Foreign Minister Penny Wong says they don't believe any Australians were involved.
It's a devastating and distressing day for these two countries and many others. At this stage, I have not been advised that any Australians were on board, but we remain closely engaged with Indian authorities.
15 CIT students are in Brisbane for the World Skills Championships, showcasing their talents across several trades. James Novak Kelly, who's competing in plumbing, says there's plenty of skills on display.
In my breaks, I have a good stroll around the convention centre here, and there's probably maybe 50 different trades here, from patisserie to plumbing.
A key milestone in plans for a new convention centre and pool here in the capital. The ACT government has said it'll match the federal government's $100 million commitment for the long-awaited projects. The development will help Canberra host bigger events, create jobs and boost our economy. The Gungahlin Community Council is thrilled. A tender's been awarded for a long-awaited shopping centre to be built in Moncrief. President Henley Samuel says the roads there will need to be upgraded.
So we need to duplicate the Merabi Drive, we need to duplicate the Osbot Drive, otherwise that place is going to be a bit of a chaos.
The Prime Minister says sport is vital for kids, but he's not on board with handing out participation medals. Anthony Albanese says learning to lose is just as important as learning to win.
Team sports are particularly good, I think, because they teach kids how to win, how to lose. When my son played junior AFL, they wouldn't keep score. I mean, what nonsense.
And almost 500 people were lining up outside the National Convention Centre this morning for day one of the Lifeline Canberra Book Fair. They've had around 400 through the doors in the first 15 minutes alone, with the event raising money for their crisis support line. And that's the latest from the Canberra newsroom this Friday. Check back again on Monday morning for our next update.
This is Will, and Will always likes more. That's why Will uses car sales to buy a car. We have over 200,000 new, used and demo cars to choose from, all there on the app.
Perfect.
Car sales in Melbourne Storm. More, better.